Welcome to the channel. So, jumping right in, did you know that if you walk less than 5,000 steps a day, you're considered sedentary? I know, right? Fucking scared me too. I went from working a kitchen job where I was probably walking about 5 miles a day to being a sedentary, stay-at-home, work from my computer, busy entrepreneur, right? And somehow I have now fallen into the category of people who don't move more than 5,000 steps a day. And I'm a little embarrassed by it because I'm a fucking health coach, right? What? So I'm on this mission to get as fit as I can by the time I turn 40, which is in like 6 months. And I want to share some of the habits and tips that I'm going to be implementing along the way. Now, you probably already know what you need to do to get fit, right? You need better sleep, you need better nutrition, you have to exercise, you got to move your body, you got to get better sleep, all that jazz. But if you're a busy person like me, you're a creative, you're anyone who is out there living life and pursuing your passions, you're probably juggling a lot of plates. I have this visual that I think of often with all of the things that I do, where I'm standing there holding those sticks that have the spinning plates on top, and I'm like balancing on, I don't know, a bicycle, on a type wire, whatever it is, but like, I'm holding all these things in place and they're all juggling just fine. But if the wind comes, if something happens, they're all going to come crashing down. I don't know if you feel that way, but that's kind of how I feel about my life right now sometimes. And having healthy habits helps me to ensure that all those plates keep spinning. My point with that, one of the biggest challenges isn't not knowing what to do, it's knowing how to stick to things consistently. So I'm going to share my habits, but I'm also going to share how the F I actually stay consistent with things. I want to share a quick personal story. When I worked in the kitchen, while I may have managed to be more active than I am now, because just by nature of the job, you walked around a lot, you moved a lot, etc., I would actually give up my sleep to get in my workouts. I would go to the gym at like 1 a.m. when I got off my shift so that I could get in a workout. And I thought that was being healthy. That was me showing up every day being like, I got in my workout, woohoo! But I also only got 4 hours of sleep. And then I over-caffeinated to compensate for that exhaustion, right? That was a recipe for disaster. I also rarely, if ever, had breakfast. And if I did, it was probably a sweet pastry or a fruit or something that I grabbed on the go, and I didn't have any protein. There was not a gram of protein in sight. Lunch was probably a bowl of whatever I could grab off the line. Salad, bread, cookies, whatever was easy to eat in a corner by the dishwashing sink, that's what I ate. And sometimes I wouldn't even eat all day, my entire shift. That's 8 hours on my feet with only a snack to get by. When I got home, dinner was probably a quick bowl of mac and cheese, maybe with some frozen vegetables, depending on how good I was feeling, what was in the fridge, and then some ice cream. And none of that really provided me with any fuel to nourish myself for the workouts that I was doing, right? So here I was doing all these workouts, but not actually eating to support any of that movement. And then doing full days of work with a fuck ton of caffeine, hoping that somehow I would actually build muscle and get results. And now that I look back on my eating habits at that time, I'm like, yes, absolutely. I was training for Ironman. I was training for triathlon. I was getting really strong doing those things. But I also was suffering. Like I was what you called skinny fat, where I didn't have any muscle. I was just disappearing. I look at some of the pictures from back when I was racing Ironman, and I'm kind of embarrassed that I did not realize how little muscle I carried on my body. No wonder I was not having the performance goals that I was looking for. My sleep was shit, my nutrition was shit, my workouts felt like shit. But eventually I learned more about behavior change and how our minds work when it comes to building better habits. And I started making adjustments to my own habits, and now I work with my own clients to help improve their habits and get them results. That shift going from feeling like I had no time to get anything done to recognizing that the things that I was doing was not an efficient way to actually build muscle, to actually help my body, and that I needed to support myself in all areas and not just getting in the workout. I needed the sleep. I needed the healthy nutrition. I needed to make sure that everything was balanced, that I wasn't over caffeinating and then fucking myself over because I couldn't sleep at night. Those are a lot of the things that I see happen with a lot of my clients. We may think we're being healthy by eating clean, but we're not eating enough carbohydrates to actually support the movement that we're doing. I see this so often with triathletes, with athletes. It's called orthorexia, but basically means that we're eating really clean. And by doing so, we're not getting the right amount of fat. We're not getting the right amount of carbohydrates for the activities that we're doing. Now, I'm not saying this is everybody. This is a very select, specific, niche portion of the population. But I fell into that category and I didn't even realize it. I thought I was being healthy. So, all this to say that you can change your habits and you can learn the skills to improve on them. And when it comes to nutrition, it doesn't have to be all about counting macros and numbers and all of that. Obviously, if you like that kind of data, run with it. You can do that. It can be really exciting to play around with numbers, but you don't have to. There is a way to do it, to adjust your nutrition to support your needs that doesn't involve lots of numbers, lots of tracking, lots of stress. And that's why I'm super passionate about sharing this information with you and helping people understand how they can fuel their body in a way that is more supportive and nourishing and allows us to continue to do these movements, these exercises, these training plans for the rest of our lives so that, we can grow to be 80, 90, 100 years old, still moving, still active. That's what I'm all about. And I just want to mention, A, I'm not a doctor, so take what I say with a grain of salt. B, you don't have to be an athlete to benefit from understanding how nutrition works in your body and from understanding how you can set up your habits to support your success. If you're looking for body change goals, if you're looking for, maybe you want to lose weight, maybe you want to build some muscle, maybe you want to tone up, maybe you just gained 10 to 15 pounds during COVID and you're like, I want to get back to that weight that I was before. Maybe the things that you were doing in your 20s are no longer working in your 30s. All of these habits that I'm going to share today, they can help you. And also, you probably already know them. And you're going to be like, why am I sharing them with you? Well, I'm sharing them with you because I know that you know what they are, but you may be struggling to actually implement them. And that's really what I work with clients on. Oh my God. My dog sees a crow outside and he is about to bark. Hopefully he will be quiet. But he's like, oh my God, bird. Yeah, okay, dogs, right? Basically, I'm sharing all this with you because if you're anything like me, you want to be able to go hike a flight of stairs without huffing and puffing. You want to go play with your friends. Right? Like, yeah, I'm a raver, okay? When I say play with my friends, that means I want to go out and dance all night and go to bed at 6 a.m. when the sun comes up, okay? Having danced 20 miles. Now, maybe you're not that extreme. Maybe you just want to go on a little hike and have a picnic somewhere. That could be what you want to do. But either way, we all want to get old and be able to do things with our bodies. Hopefully these tips help you. Let's get going, okay? The number one thing that I'm focusing on and that I have been focusing on for the last several months is protein. I want to make sure that I get in at least 20 to 35 grams of protein per meal. Buddy, could we lie down? So you pause, don't make noise. Go lie down. Go to the bed. Get on the bed. I'm shooting for no less than 100 grams of protein per day, ideally 130 grams if I can get it. But I'm not going to make any major jumps right away. Like, I want it to be a slow ease into the process. I'm actually tracking that portion of my macros, have been for the last week, and I'm going to do it for the month of March. I'm not going to do it forever, but I just want to make sure that as I'm working out in the gym, as I'm getting consistent with my workouts, or as I continue to be consistent with my workouts, I'm getting enough protein. And for me, that looks like weighing things out every meal. That looks like weighing out my oats and my nuts and my seeds and my rice and my pasta and my potatoes, along with the tofu, the tempeh, whatever. I'm vegan, so obviously the things that I eat are going to be slightly different than what other people eat. And that also means that when I am counting protein, I'm going to factor in things like oats and rice and pasta and potatoes. Now, my main sources of protein are going to be tofu. They're going to be tempeh. They're going to be textured vegetable protein. They're going to be seitan, things like that. But if you're not vegan, obviously you can track your chicken, you can track your beef, you can track your ground pork, whatever it is that you're eating. I wasn't always vegan, so this is why I feel like I can still coach non-vegans. And it hasn't been a problem so far because I was a chef for 13 years, so I know all about meat, more than I want to know. Anyways, one way to look at that, if you don't want to track your protein, if you're not vegan, you can think of it in terms of 1 to 2 palm sizes amounts of protein per meal. With lunch, you'll have like a fillet of chicken. A fillet? Morgan, it's not a fillet. It's a breast of chicken, okay? So, a breast of chicken with lunch, a fillet of fish with dinner. They usually come in sizes that are relatable to a palm, okay? But like vegan proteins, because the protein content is slightly less for the amount of food that you have to eat, it's a lot harder to do a guesstimate of like 1 to 2 palm sizes. So that's why I'm actually weighing it out just for, the month of March. And like I said, I recommend increasing the amount of protein that you're eating slowly. I just shared in the newsletter that I sent out today a little hack to help with that. Protein actually takes longer to digest than carbohydrates. And so it sits in your body a little bit more in a way that often can cause bloating or gas or be a little bit more uncomfortable. So one of the hacks that I shared in my newsletter this week was maybe have some pineapple with your meal or after your meal. It has enzymes in it that actually help aid digestion. Another hack would be to have some apple cider vinegar diluted with water. I would do like a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar with some water. Drink that either pre-meal or post-meal, doesn't matter which. It's going to help aid digestion as well. I mean, obviously you could go out and buy some digestive enzymes, but ain't nobody got money for that. So go the cheap route, get some vinegar, get some pineapple. That's going to help you with your digestion. Also, keeping in mind that if you increase your step count, that's going to help with motility. Motility is the movement of food through your digestive tract. So, you ever gone for a run and suddenly have to poop 10 minutes into the run? That's because of motility. So if you're feeling like, increasing your protein is causing some digestive issues, those are some things that you can try. Another thing that I also recommend is when you are increasing protein, also make sure to get in adequate fiber. Fiber is going to come from leafy vegetables, apples, the whole pieces of fruit, the whole pieces of vegetables. Making sure that you're getting those in. I would do like 1 to 2 fistfuls of fibrous veggies per meal. You can also get it in things like rice and pasta, provided they're whole grain, bread, etc. I'm actually taking a fiber supplement, which I know sounds kind of weird for a vegan to be taking a fiber supplement. But with the understanding that tofu or vegan protein, I have to eat more food in order to get the same amount of protein as like a breast of chicken. That means I'm also consuming more food than regular people, right? Y'all non-vegans, okay? And because of that, I have less space to consume vegetables, right? So I try and take a fiber supplement as well on the off chance that I am not getting the amount of vegetables that I want to be getting, right? So yes, I want to eat a certain amount of protein, but because my stomach isn't ready for that amount of food, it takes a while to adjust to eating the amount of food that produces the amount of protein that I want, along with the amount of vegetables that produce the amount of fiber that I want. So that's why I sometimes recommend taking a fiber supplement. And for non-vegans, many of you don't like vegetables. While I always recommend getting your fiber from whole foods, a fiber supplement might help. I'm not a doctor. Always take supplements with the recommendation of a doctor. Don't listen to me. But that's what I'm doing currently. The supplement that I'm taking is actually a natural whole food supplement. So it's basically just ground seeds like flaxseed, amaranth. It has some garbanzo and some lentil. It's something that I add to my oatmeal or my smoothies. I also make sure to include the greens like kale and spinach and arugula with my meals, and having additional veggies, like I said, 1 to 2 fist sizes of veggies, whether that's carrots, bell peppers, celery, zucchini, you name it. You get to decide what you eat, obviously. I'm not your mama. But I always recommend eating the rainbow, and I recommend trying new things. Another thing that sort of piggybacks off of the protein and that can aid with digestion is to increase your water intake. So I'm making sure that I'm always getting water throughout the day. I have a jar that's 24 ounces of water next to me at all times, and I drink from it regularly. I also, if I'm going to be working out for longer than an hour, or if I'm working out and I'm doing a lot of sweating, I'll make sure to include electrolytes with that, so that can help with the reabsorption of water and the nutrients and all of that jazz. And like I said, water actually helps with digestion. So if you're having those issues with the protein consumption, water's going to help with that. Protein is there really to help with energy. It's the building block of muscle, but it's also one of the biggest things that can have an impact on your cravings. Because it digests so slowly, it actually keeps you full longer, and it's going to make you feel like you're less cravey, you know? So for people like me who have a sweet tooth, or you like crunchy chips or things like that, salty, fatty, actually eating protein and increasing the amount that you're eating is going to help alleviate that craving feeling. If you take one thing away from today, it would be to eat enough protein. Which I'm not sure that I said, but I'm going to say it now. If you want an actual number to run with, I would say 0.7 grams to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight is roughly what people go with. If you're an active individual and you're moving and you're working out, you're going to want a little bit more than that. So I like to tell my clients who are just starting to pay attention to this, focus on 100 grams and then go up from there. Then you have a baseline where you can feel like you're actually being successful with the habit, right? We don't want to throw this big number at you if you're not used to paying attention, if you're not even used to knowing how much you're actually eating. How do you actually start taking in more protein? How do you start implementing this habit? Well, first of all, like I said, you decide how much you want per meal. You figure out what sources you enjoy, what's going to work with your diet, your time, your money. And yes, that means sitting down and writing a list, doing some research, figuring out what actually has protein in it, what can count as a protein source. I know for me, because I'm vegan, I count potatoes. I count the protein in potatoes to get me to that 130 goal, right? Like, maybe you don't have to do that if you're a non-vegan, because you're actually going to be able to get enough protein from like a piece of meat. But figuring out all the things that might have protein in it so that throughout the day you can start paying attention to where is your protein coming from. And if you're having a snack, maybe you'll gravitate towards something that's more protein heavy than like a piece of fruit, right? Once you have this list, then you can go to the store and you can buy the things that are going to help you with that process. Now, I don't say jump in right away and have protein at every meal and believe that you're going to be able to do that. You want to start small. So start with making the list. Start with doing some research. Start with the planning, the preparing, the writing out the grocery list. Maybe you go to the grocery store and you just start reading labels and being like, does this have protein in it? I don't know. Let's check. Right? Like what I did when I went vegan, suddenly there were all these things that I couldn't eat, right? And I liked yogurt. I enjoyed having yogurt with granola. And I was like, okay, cool. To me, eating yogurt and granola is a breakfast item, right? So I was going to be like, okay, but how do I make that high protein, right? And the thing with like a lot of vegan yogurts, they're made out of coconut. Coconut is not high protein, right? So I had to do my own research and figure out which yogurts had the highest amount of protein. I would stand in front of the yogurt aisle and read all the labels. Obviously, they were mad at me because I was opening the door the whole time, being like, read the label. But you know, it's fine. I figured out which yogurt brands have a high amount of protein. And so now I have 2 sources that I like, and I'll buy those. I think it's SIGs. I don't know how to say that. That has like 10 grams per container, little container. It's a one serving size. And then there's another one that I buy that is Kite Hill, I think is what it's called. And it has 17 grams of protein per serving. It's the Greek one. And that one I think is made of soy. But now I have 2 brands to go to where I know that if I have this, I can have it for breakfast. I can have it for an after dinner snack. And I've also found a type of granola that has 10 grams of protein per serving. So I will throw that on top. And right there, I've got 20 grams or 27, depending on how you know, which brand you go with, right? I think the brand of granola that I go with is the Kind Bar granola. There's a peanut one, and then there's an almond cinnamon one, I think. Those 2 have higher grams of protein in them. So It's all about finding what works for you and doing the research, right? So obviously, you're not going to figure it all out in one sitting, but it's the process of starting to be like, I want to do this, and developing that awareness of, okay, I'm going to start thinking about this a little bit more. I'm going to start paying attention a little bit more, and then slowly getting better over time. And that way I've been able to sit down and make lists of protein sources for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, for snacks, so that I know, what my options are. I'm not just winging it, right? When you wing something, you freak out because you get overwhelmed. You're like, I don't know what has protein. I can't do it. Don't do that. We can take it back. We can figure it out. It's not that complicated. Okay, so drop in the comments below if you feel like you would love a protein cheat sheet. So the next big habit that I would actually focus on, that I've been focusing on for the last couple of years, is actually my sleep, right? Outside of the nights where I go raving, outside of the nights where I have social activities, I go to bed at like 9 o'clock, okay? Last night I think I was in bed at 8:15, right? But at this point in my life, it's not something I think about. It's just something that my body says, hey, it's bedtime, and I go to bed. I don't fight it. I don't argue. Now, I know that when I worked for other people, my schedule was a little bit not mine, and I couldn't really determine when my shifts were or what time I was getting home, all of that jazz. So when I went to bed was a little bit more dependent on my job. I understand that. But I also understand that a lot of us are just not going to bed. We're sitting there, our thoughts are racing, we're scrolling on our phones, we're watching TV, we're just staying up and then being like, why am I tired? That's why, okay? And I recognize as an entrepreneur, there's always more to do with your job. So, there's times where I get into bed and my mind is racing, my thoughts are racing, and I'm like, ooh, I could work on that, I could work on that, I could work on that. And I just have to be like, no, this is bedtime. And one of the practices that I like to incorporate is breath work. Now, I'm not saying suddenly do a breath work meditation in your bed, but if you are lying there in your bed and you're having all these racing thoughts, one of the things that you can work on is focusing on your breath, slowing down, breathing in and out, and calming your mind and sort of clearing the thoughts out of your head. It's not necessarily like forcing them away, but like letting them come, letting them go, letting them come, letting them go. One of the tools that I actually use to help me with that is a checkout process. So at the end of my day, I have a checkout process from my job where I will reflect on what I've done for the day. I will look at, what needs to be done, what I've accomplished, and I'll make a new list for tomorrow so that then when I start tomorrow, I'm prepared and I can go in knowing what I need to get done for the day. And knowing that there's only a few things that I'm going to be able to get done a day, so I don't make a to-do list that's like 20 miles long, but I just focus on the 3 main things that I want to get done for the day. Having a checkout routine actually allows me to close down my job for the day so that I'm no longer thinking about all of the things that need to be done, right? I can be like, cool, I've done today, I've reflected on today, I have a plan for tomorrow, and then I can shut it out and turn it off, and then I'll have like chill time. I literally have on my calendar, after 6 o'clock is chill time. We don't do work, we don't focus on anything else, we just chill, we eat, we do stuff, we go to bed, watch TV. I know, I watch 3 hours of TV pretty much every night. Little embarrassed about that, don't love it, but also it's what we do. It's the world we live in. Having that boundary is really important for me. For me, going to bed early is a non-negotiable. Unless, of course, I'm socializing or raving or whatever. But those are moments where I factor that in and I think about the next day and I'm like, okay, if I'm going to be going out on this night and I'm going to be out late, I'm not going to plan something for early in the morning the next day, and I'm going to make sure that day is my recovery day for the week, right? I'm not going to force myself to do crazy shit on that next day. Now, sometimes I do because we're crazy, we're human, we do life. But as much as we love to fight it, we actually thrive on routine. So going to bed at a regular hour every night will actually help you wake up earlier, but also you'll start to fall asleep at that time. It's the same with eating. If you eat at the same time every day, your body is going to get hungry at that time every day. We are basically dogs, but also not. But just knowing that, it means that you can start practicing the habit of going to bed earlier, and it will sort of become part of who you are. over time. It's not going to happen all at once. One of the ways that I help clients to start working on that is to set an alarm about a half an hour before you want to go to bed. Start having an evening routine. Stop looking at your phone, stop looking at screens, have blackout curtains, lower the lights, make things a little bit colder. All of those things are going to help support a natural sleep cycle. It's really important for me to set those boundaries with myself. I am not a child anymore. I do not need to do all-nighters where I stay up late and get my work done. I set my own deadlines. I set my own schedule. I can plan my day so that I can get my work done. Now, I've also learned to realize that we can really only get in about 4 to 6 hours of actually focused work in a day. So expecting more than that is just absurd. Stop it. Lower your expectations for what you're able to do in a day. Because if you really think about it, if you research the stuff about how productive people are at a corporate job for that 8 hours, they're really not, okay? They're really not that productive. And so we've built society on this idea that you have to work for 8 hours a day. But in reality, we're not able to actually focus for that amount of time. So stop expecting that. And also realizing that on the days where you do push harder, on those days like you work harder, you work until 7, you work until 9, you work until 10, whatever, you're going to suffer the next day. So if you are going to have sprints like that, absolutely do them. But remember that you have to support yourself the next day, okay? We're in our 30s and 40s, right? We're not going to bounce back the same way that we used to. Energy is not infinite. It is finite. And we have to find ways to support it when it gets depleted. And working for yourself requires that you become aware of those energy levels and how to manage them and developing that awareness. And that's really something I work on with clients, is understanding how food will fuel your body, how energy works in your day, how sleep can actually fuel your day, or deplete it if you're not getting enough sleep, how movement can actually both hinder and help your energy levels. So if you're working out too much, that's not great. But if you're sedentary, that's not great either. You can actually use movement to help energize you even more. So finding that balance, everybody's going to be different, and what works for you is going to be different than what works for me. But finding that middle ground of this is how my body works best is one of the things that I work on with clients. As we move from talking about how sleep affects our energy levels and how it can actually help us recover from the movement that we've done, the next habit is going to be obviously exercise and movement. One of the biggest ones, my favorite one, that's what is one of the things that's hardest for many people to stay consistent with. And I've been training since 2007, so I get it. It's hard. It's hard to stay consistent. I've had times where I'm on it, workout. And then I've had times where I'm have I moved this month? I don't know. But I have idealistic goals of what I want when it comes to exercise and movement. In a perfect world, I would be lifting 3 to 4 times a week. I would be cycling 1 indoor Zwift ride, because now I'm on Zwift, woohoo! And 1 outdoor cycling ride, because I live in Southern California and it is beautiful sometimes. But also, drivers are now shit, so I'm a little bit more afraid to ride outside lately, so that hasn't been happening, but hopefully we'll get back to it. I would also like to run more. I used to run a lot more, but I haven't made the time. We'll get back to that. So 1 to 2 runs a week would be great. One of the things that happens with running is if you stop running, your little ligaments and tendons are all what the fuck are you asking me to do when you come back to it? So trying to keep that as a regular part of my exercise routine is one of the things I want to focus on in the next 6 months. But realistically, it's really only been 1 time a week. I've only been able to hit 1 time a week. And then on top of that, I would love to get out of that below 5,000 steps range, right? I'm shooting for 8 to 10,000, and it's not a we'll see what happened goal, because it's one of those where you have to actually say, hey, I'm going to do this thing, and then go do the thing, right? Now, one of the biggest things when it comes to implementing exercise and movement is being very, very conscious, being very honest of what time you actually have available to do things. I did the math, and the amount of movement that I would like to do is about an hour and a half a day. But who am I kidding? Who has time for that, right? One of the tools that I implemented was doing a time audit. And I do this with all my clients is I have them do a time audit of like, where are you actually using your time? What do you actually think you're going to do? Like, what's your plan for the day? And then what actually happens? Because having that data of like, I plan to do this project for these 3 hours, and yet I was only working for 25 minutes out of that because I got distracted down some rabbit hole on ChatGPT. You know, you got to be honest with yourself about what time you actually have available. So one of the things that I've done for myself is I took out my Google Calendar, although technically it's iCalendar, and I time blocked all of my time. So I've planned out my entire week. Now, does this mean that I'm going to follow the plan? No. But having a plan allows me to see what time I actually have available to work out. So if we calculate the fact that we have roughly 6.5 hours of focus time a day, it's probably a stretch, but we're going to go with it. Shoot for ideals, right? Then that means that I have roughly an hour and a half that I could throw in for exercising, right? He drooled on the bed. There's now a little puddle there. That's my dog. I created this, basically it's a map. It shows me what's available in the day, where I'm going to work on certain projects, where I'm having lunch, where I'm having breakfast, where I'm having dinner. And then I've put in where I can work out. Now, obviously that's going to be flexible throughout the day, and I'm going to move it depending on what projects I'm working on when, and I'm going to try and stick to the plan. But it gives me an idea of this is what potentially could be possible. So rather than being like, oh, I have no time, I look at my week and I'm like, this is where I actually do have time. And then I'm like, okay, what can I actually get done in that time? It's not going to be a 2-hour workout at the gym, right? It's going to be something at home because going to the gym requires me to drive and park and deal with traffic and all of that jazz. And that's extra time. Could you not run around? Cool. Basically, this connects to, hi, hello pups. What are you doing? The other part of that, and, you know, maybe this doesn't apply to you if you're not a person who works from home, but maybe it does. If you work from home, you probably have this struggle of feeling like you need to be on all the time, right? I am part of a team that requires me to answer emails regularly. Now, is there ever an email that goes out that I can't wait an hour to reply to? Probably not. And there's some part of me, and I'm working on this, that doesn't give myself permission to go do a workout for an hour. And I would like to get over this, and this is something I'm working on, and that's something I see with a lot of people, is that we just don't give ourselves the permission to work out. We don't give ourselves permission to go take this time and be like, no, I am checking out. This is me time. This is what I am going to do with my time right now. Turn it off. Go work out, right? You are allowed to, right? You are allowed to say, no, I'm not doing that. Now, granted, don't get fired from your job, please. That's not my problem, but don't do that. But like recognizing that as an adult, you decide at the end of the day, you decide what you do with your life. If you don't like the way that your job treats you and the hours that you're working and all of that, find a new job. I know it's not as easy as that. I do know I spent a year looking for a job, but at least take radical responsibility for the fact that you are in charge of what you choose to do. Now, you may not always like the things that you choose to do, and you may not always like the responsibilities that you are in charge of, but recognizing that if you want to allow yourself the permission to take an hour to work out a day, you can, because you're an adult. I know it's not that simple, but I just have to say that. And that sort of pertains to the idea that when it comes to habit implementation, right? A lot of what I work on with clients is working through various limiting beliefs, working through various obstacles that we're creating in our own heads around getting things done. So for me, the limiting belief that I can't take an hour of time to go work out is preventing me from doing workouts. When really, logically I know that my company will be okay if I don't respond to an email in a certain period of time. Like, we'll be fine. It can wait. My workout is more important So a lot of what I do with clients is help you figure out what those limiting beliefs are and how you can overcome them, how you can think through them, how you can shift your mindset to be more supportive of your goals while still respecting your responsibilities. I'm not saying throw out your job. I'm just saying recognize that you do have the responsibility to take it upon yourself to get the things done, right? If you want to work out, you got to make time for it. You got to find a place to put it in your day. And that looks like looking at your time and being like, honestly, where do I have time for this? And maybe you have to make some sacrifices. I know for me, I was making sacrifices with my sleep. I no longer do that because I've set this boundary. And I would rather get my sleep than work out, right? So it's really a matter of you figuring out where your values are and what is most important for you. Long ass tangent there, right? Okay, but ultimately, it really comes down to the awareness that you have of your behaviors, your thoughts, and what's going on in your life, what time you actually have available to do things, and how you're prioritizing things, what you're putting first. Have you set up your environment so that you can be more successful? Are you meeting all your needs? Are you getting enough food? Are you getting enough sleep? The more you develop the awareness of what you are doing and what might be possible for you to do, the more you can start to see how you can sort of align yourself with your goals more. You can make little adjustments, okay? Focusing on awareness of your energy levels and like what's going to deplete you versus what's not, what's going to energize you. Focus on what you're actually doing versus what you want to be doing. So, what habits do we have so far? We have protein, which piggybacking off of that, hydration, fiber, veggies, having 3 meals a day. We also have sleep, which might include having a checkout time from work, eating earlier so that you're not having a full stomach before bed, and having an evening routine that helps you set up that process of starting to have an earlier bedtime. Exercise and movement. Realistically, what do you have time for? Stop trying to do all of the things. I listed out all of these idealistic goals for my exercise and movement, but realistically, all I did the other day was walk to the grocery store and come home. And it took me half an hour, 45 minutes maybe. And I was like, well, that's all I got time for. That movement, I still count. So one of the things that I teach my clients is to think about their habit in terms of what is the idealistic version of this? On my best day, what can I get done? And then to take that and be like, okay, on my most exhausting day where I'm tired as fuck, what can I actually get done? What does that look like? And what does that version of success look like? Because you also want to be able to say that you had success on those bad days. You want to be able to be like, I still felt like I was being healthy. I still felt like I embodied the feeling of healthiness, whatever that is to you, on those bad days. So I work with clients so that they can help narrow down what that looks like. Define what success means to you on your good day, on your best day. And then the last thing that I'm going to talk about today is saying no to what doesn't align with your goals and saying yes to more things that bring you joy. Because life is about experiencing things and enjoying the process. And yes, we want habit change and we want to be healthy and we want all those things, but I still want to have the freaking donut with my breakfast, okay? So one of the tools that I teach my clients and then I practice myself is something called awareness checks, where you are every couple hours, you're tuning into your body and your mind and your soul and being like, okay, what do I need? And have I met all of those needs? Do I need sleep? Do I need food? Do I need water? Do I need to work out? What do I need, right? Do I need social time with friends? Do I need alone time? Do I need to stop looking at my phone and stop having stimulation and just go sit in a quiet corner and be like, meditate? Right? So a lot of that is paying attention to your needs, but it's beginning to understand how things have consequences in your life. So if I eat a healthy meal today, how is that going to affect me tomorrow? And then noticing that change in your body. So if I eat a high protein meal, I wake up in the morning feeling hungry, ready for more protein. If I eat a heavier meal that's full of fat and like fried foods and that kind of thing, I'm going to wake up and feel bloated and uncomfortable. And I'll probably wake up at 3 a.m. and be like, why the fuck did I eat that? But also we can enjoy it. It's not about judging what you're doing. It's more about paying attention and just being aware of how things affect your body. I teach awareness checks that really is about paying attention to energy levels and paying attention to stress and your stress levels, how things affect that. Also your hunger and your fullness, how things affect that. And then really noticing obstacles that might come up when you're trying to implement your healthy habits, and then patterns of behavior that you keep repeating, noticing them. I ask my clients a lot to do this practice of noticing and naming what is actually happening. We're not assigning judgment, we're not assigning meaning to things. We're just paying attention to what the data says and then analyzing that. And how can we pivot? How can we grow? How can we learn from that data? It's all about mindset and noticing how certain things might seem challenging, but how can we learn from those experiences? How can we think about it in terms of not failing at being consistent, but understand our behavior better so that then we can start to change it, right? One thing I want to leave you with is that habits are all about trial and error, right? They're not about perfection. They're not about hoping you'll get it right. They're about trying all these different things, experimenting, playing around, throwing spaghetti at the wall, and seeing what sticks, seeing what fits in your life. So everybody's different. Everybody has different lives, different circumstances, different bodies, different minds, etc., right? And so what works in your life is going to be different than what works in somebody else's life. And yes, having a coach can absolutely help you get through this process faster and figure it out faster. And we have tools and resources and strategies for doing all of these things, but you can still go into the process of habit formation with the mindset that I can figure it out and I can play around until I get it right. Now, I'm not saying switch things up every 2 seconds. I'm saying stick with something, try it for a month and see how it goes and record the data and then try again. You're not constantly changing, but you're focusing on something enough that you're gathering enough data about whether or not that is actually going to work for you. And then lastly, my goal to get fit as fuck before 40, that's not going to stop at 40. It's a journey. It's a process. And one of the things that I stress with clients is that it's really about building a lifestyle of habits that you love. Yes, there's going to be times where things are boring and you don't want to do them and you're going to fight them. It's not all marshmallows and rainbows all the time, right? But finding your fun, finding joy in the process of doing these things. I love movement. I love eating protein because of the way it makes me feel. I'm more focused. I'm more energized. I have spunk in my day, right? And so for me, building these habits it's not an uncomfortable thing. It's a thing where I'm excited to do this because I love how it makes me feel. I love the changes that I see in my body, and I get joy out of the process. And part of that experimentation is you figuring that out for yourself. You have to find fun in the process. Okay, so that's enough from me today. I hope you found some of this useful. If you did, subscribe, share with a friend, all that jazz. And I'll catch you next time. Ciao!